Welcome to the final Silicon Slopes Town Hall of the week. My name is Clint Batts. I want to give a quick update on testutah.com and some of the numbers. So Drew, if you wouldn't mind putting on the screen the numbers for where we're at on testutah.com so everyone can take a look at this. So yesterday we did over 3,000 assessments. So far we've done over 69,000 assessments. Yesterday we did over 1,200 tests were received by our labs, and cumulatively, so in total, we've done over 5,000 tests so far through testutah.com. There are currently 4 locations open, one in Heber, one in Ogden, one in Provo, and one in Orem. Yesterday, I believe, was the biggest testing day ever for testutah.com as we've been ramping up here, which I think is a good sign that what's happening here is working and what's happening here is critical. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows the Utah Department of Health has updated the assessment that's on testutah.com to make it easier for those who need to be tested to be tested. And, you know, if you have one of the following 6 symptoms, I believe it's 6 symptoms. If you have one of the following 6 symptoms, take the assessment and you're very likely to be scheduled to be tested. And those symptoms are a fever, a cough, shortness of breath, muscle aches and pains, a decreased sense of smell or taste, or a sore throat. So if you have any of those 6 symptoms, go to testutah.com and take the assessment. Taking the assessment is critical, even if you've already taken the assessment. Please take it again, in particular for those who believe that they had at least one of those symptoms and weren't scheduled for testing. It is now critical that you schedule yourself for testing and take the assessment. So as I mentioned, we have over 69,000 people who have taken the assessment so far. That's not enough. We need more people to take the assessment at testutah.com. In fact, we need every Utah to take the assessment on testutah.com. So please do that. And please encourage everyone in your network to do that. The hashtag is TestUtahChallenge, and send people to testutah.com. All right, the current known cases in the state of Utah as currently updated by Dr. Dunn earlier today in a press conference. There's 2,542 known cases, 20 known deaths, over 47,000 people being tested. But as I mentioned, we're ramping up testing significantly here. There's been 221 hospitalizations. And again, the big thing here is there's plenty of testing capacity now. Go to testutah.com, take the assessment. We need to get every Utah tested. And with that, we had a major announcement around personal protective equipment. And I'm going to let my good friend Josh James, co-founder of Silicon Slopes and co-founder and CEO of Domo, talk about what he announced today, because this wouldn't have happened without you, Josh. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, thanks, Clint. Like I said at the press conference, I think it's good to remind us all how personal this stuff gets. Last night I got a phone call from one of our leaders and a person on our team, one of our employees. She found out yesterday that in addition to several of her families being hospitalized in the New York area, her mom, who's in the New York area, has been showing a lot of symptoms and pretty sure has the virus. And it took 3 days to get tested, and she's already lost one of her relatives. So, you hear about that stuff and then see how our state's doing and all the stuff that everybody on the call has been helping with. I heard we did a press conference. I mean, kind of how this all came about, come and listen in and be inspired by what everyone's doing and be inspired by the leadership of people in all different parts of this system, and seeing what Jeremy was doing, jumping in on all of the, helping the economy get back going, and seeing CEO of Zions Bank jump in, just everybody jumping in. It's been inspiring, and doing things that I didn't think we were going to be able to do also. And, seeing the fabric of Silicon Slopes and how committed everyone's been. And Clint, all the work that you've done over the last 4 or 5 years, building this community so we have a big voice, because before that we didn't have a big voice. And, the Chamber of Commerce might have a bigger voice. Not now. The biggest voice in the state by far is Silicon Slopes. And as long as we're cognizant of that and we respect that and understand how important that can be, it's really cool, because then we can get things done. And so I would come, this thing's kind of taken on a life of its own, right? And I would come and listen. And when people started talking about testing, I was like, this is kind of crazy that we're having these conversations. And then, it's kind of started getting some legs and started getting some momentum. And I'm like, okay, I'm all in. Like, what can I do to help with testing? Like, sure, teach me everything. Let's go. And, that started really going, and it was fun to watch. And then I remember listening to one of the, those first couple of days when we're like, at least I was glued to the TV as well and watching what the press conferences were like, and watching Governor Cuomo and watching, President Trump. And I was flabbergasted when he said, it's kind of every state for themselves. States should be doing this. Like, what? Why do we have FEMA? Like, why? What are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. Like, give me the country. Like, any entrepreneur in this state can do a better job. That's what was going through my head. So, it's like, these are not hard decisions. Why are we pitting the states against each other, trying to buy masks in China against France? This is dumb. But, at the same time, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, well, F me. If that's the case, let's go. We guess we're going to have to do this. And I'm like, maybe I can help out with PPE. I don't know. And so I was on the board of this company called Stance. A lot of people in Utah are familiar with, because a lot of Utah guys started it. And, a lot of Utah people, men and women, ended up working there. And I was on the board of the company, and they manufactured all their socks in China. And it got to the point where, we'd be making socks, and then all of a sudden we had a good factory, and all of a sudden, Nike would come along and be like, oh, you get Nike Stances making socks in this factory? Oh, we need to lock you up for the next 20 years. And then the factory would call us and be like, yeah, we can't make your socks anymore. So we ended up having to make our own factory over there. And the guy that went over there and made the factory, and I'm sure Jeremy knows a lot of these people because he's associated with a lot of the Stance folks, but this guy, Taylor Shoup, who went to BYU and was one of the co-founders of Stance, he now owned a factory in China, and you can only own 49% of it as an American citizen. And so they found Chinese members to own it, and they made a board, and they were getting ready to take this factory public. They're making socks and all kinds of other things. And he goes, and so I called him and I said, do you know how to do any of this? Can you import this stuff? And he's like, well, I know this general, and I think we can do it. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it, because our little state over here, we need some stuff. And so we went and procured a bunch of stuff. And thankfully, our state is being aggressive. And in the press conference today, up at the hangar, and some of you probably saw it, it was really cool, because it was a cool moment for me to reflect on what the governor and lieutenant governor and the team, the state, the posture that we have at the state. It's different. And I know this now, because as soon as we started bringing in stuff, I mean, I literally have had 30 different heads of procurement, state heads of procurement, call me. 30 of the 50 states have called me, trying to find masks, gowns, Tyvek. I mean, I've learned all kinds of things I didn't ever want to know about. And no one can get stuff in. And we're like, yeah, we could probably help you guys, because we've gotten Utah taken care of. And they're like, okay, it's net 60, and you have to accept all the responsibility. I'm like, what? I run a software company. I'm not accepting responsibility for the quality of your mask. I'm sorry. I mean, if you want me to mark it up 3x, and we're going to make a bunch of money that way if we end up giving you good stuff, because we're going to have to take care of the liability if we don't give you good stuff, because I don't know what's going on over there in China. I don't know what customs is doing. And Utah said, yeah, well, because I told them, I'm like, I don't want to make money on Utah. So here's the suits, here's the masks. We're not going to charge you. So we're way under everyone's prices. And Utah's like, well, wire the money now. And I told them, we'll keep it in an American company. We'll keep it in an American account, and then we'll put it in an American company's Chinese account. We're not sending it to Chinese manufacturers, factories, third parties, et cetera, until we inspect it, until we put it on a plane. And Utah's like, cool, let's go. Here's the money. We trust you, go. And it's kind of cool because a lot of other states, they need this stuff, but they're like, we're not sending money. I'm like, well, I'm not getting you any masks then. I'm not taking the liability. And so Utah's like, you have to be aggressive right now. I talked to the governor today. He's like, of course we're being aggressive. We are preparing for the worst. We expect and hope for the best. And, you know, all the numbers are saying things are coming down, but we might have a resurgence. Who knows what's going to happen, but Utah's going to be prepared. So I've been proud to be a Utahn, probably more than any other time. And, you know, I'm a transplant. I lived 17 places growing up. I live in Chicago. I was born in North Carolina. Michael Jordan's my guy. Damn D, whatever that happens in this, you know, new documentary that's coming out. He's still my guy. And, you know, I pulled for the Bulls against the Jazz. So it's always been hard for me. But like right now, I'm all Utah and it's fun. For the first time, I really feel like I'm Utah first. And, you know, so anyway, we get all this PPE, and as soon as the order goes out, it's going into customs, and then China changed the rules. And they said, no more, we're stopping everything. If it doesn't come factory direct, then we can't let it go out because it's making China look bad when fraudulent items are showing up in New York and Vermont loses $13 million in masks, then they're not real masks. And we're horrified of that happening too. And then, you know, they're like, okay, and actually we have to change. Then the federal government in China starts saying, we're holding on to everything because Trump just called it the China virus again. So then all the orders get backlogged. And then they came and said, okay, now we're not doing customs inspections. We're doing factory inspections. We're going to inspect your stuff at the factory, and then you can send it to customs. We're going to inspect it again and see if the stickers that we put on the factory are in customs. And so it's just been a nightmare. And then there were no planes, you know, and now we did this. So we did this press conference today. Lieutenant Governor said something awesome. And it really, really was a great moment. It was so tangible for me. I'm sure most of the people have seen Dunkirk, and Lieutenant Governor said, this is our Dunkirk moments. You know, the clarion call, we need help. And everybody on this call has stepped up. And I thought that was so cool because there's tiny little boats and there's some big freaking boats. And, you know, today we brought a big boat, but the tiny boats matter as well. And, you know, we've got 8 million pieces of PPE that should be coming in over the next 2 weeks. Just got off the phone with Delta Airlines. They're sending a couple A350s over there that are bigger than the 777s in terms of cargo space. They're going Shanghai, Salt Lake nonstop. So we'll have 3 of those that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. Today we had a 757 because it was just the first shipment. The first shipment was small. It was 50,000 goggles and 250,000 masks, but they're all high quality. There's film on both sides of the goggles. They're they're scratch resistant. The masks are all done really well. The seals really well. So we're bringing in high quality stuff, and the state couldn't be more excited. You know, I couldn't be more excited. This will probably shock all of you, and I'm sure none of you will believe me, but I actually don't like doing that kind of stuff. I don't like being like, look at me, let's spike the football. I do it because, you know, it's a role that I play, and it's good for my company when I do it, and it's good for Silicon Slopes when I do it. And I think it's good for our state, and it's good for our citizens to feel like, hey, some good stuff's happening here. But I will admit, though, it's kind of cool having a plain backdrop, you know, and it's just cool seeing it's happening. So it was a spike the football moment. 8 million pieces are coming in over the next 2 weeks. We're doing way better than ever in the state, and we're actually bringing in at really, really, really good prices that are one third what New York's paying right now for those KN95 masks. 1/3 is what we brought them in for. So it's been really cool, and it's cool for Taylor's company. You know, they're making socks, and now all of a sudden they're an importer of medical devices, and I'm sure they're going to be doing that for a long time. And they're going to be making masks instead of socks, and they're going to be cool, comfortable masks, which I'm sure would recognize that if you've ever worn their socks, because he helped design all those. He's not there anymore, but he's this company called Future Sit. So that's the story behind it. It's crazy. I feel like I'm living on adrenaline, and I'm gonna, you know, probably pass out here in a second, but that's where things are at, Clint.
Thanks, my friend. So we're going to be bringing in 8 million items of PPE. Is that right, Josh?
Items of PPE. The state has a total of 30 million that it's received, that it bought before this stuff really started getting crazy, that they got from FEMA. They got a bunch of stuff delivered from FEMA's warehouses, and then that they brought in from outside sources. And And I've been given the credit to Silicon Slopes, certainly, because again, this wouldn't have happened had we not collectively banded together and had a voice that mattered. And, the governor does call a lot of us on he's probably called me 30 times in the last month just to check in, like, is this right? Does this make sense? Josh, we need to push harder. Get the team to push harder. We wouldn't have that voice if it's not for all of us. And I definitely recognize that. And it's been fun to see that influence. And with this PPE, yeah, we're of all the providers, I think we've brought in more PPE than everyone else combined when you take out FEMA. So it's been cool to see us, all collectively be able to help and to have that voice, and to have the trust from the state officials to say, hey, Jeremy, what should we do with the PPP? We got $800 million at the state. What should we do? And to have that trust helps us be able to influence and look out for each other. So it's been extremely humbling and an honor to help out. And it's at the same time, it's invigorating, it's exciting, and I'm proud of our state.
I'm proud of you, my friend. Again, I just want to make sure everyone watching this understands. And as Josh mentioned, this is a collective effort from so many people within Silicon Slopes. But I've watched Josh called me at like 2:30, 3 a.m. last night. It was crazy. It was like telling me about all this stuff.
He said you'd be up.
And he actually told me that, hey, you say you know what I mean too much. And so now that's all I'm thinking about. I think about that constantly.
That was a private conversation, Clint.
So now I don't know if I'm going to say that. I'm like self-conscious about that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I told you, as a friend, anybody else, I would probably just kept track of it. And I would have been texting other people on the call, be like, listen, how many times he says, you know what I mean? But you're a friend, so I didn't tease you in front of anybody. I just told you privately. But
now it's public. I say, you know what I mean?
You brought
it
up.
Much.
One thing I should clarify too, because in one of the news reports it came out, and I want to make sure that there's no confusion. I didn't pay for this stuff. This isn't me donating it. If I hadn't got divorced and hadn't had to write a big check, then, maybe I'd be in position to do that. But I invested my money in a bunch of private companies and real estate projects. I'm not cash rich, and my stock, I don't know if you saw, it's down. But I did facilitate it, and but I can't take credit for paying for any of it. The state, like I said, they leaned in and they've I'm not making any money on the state of Utah for any of the PPE. Domo does sell software to the state. Qualtrics sells software to the state. We all sell software to the state, but I think everyone's trying to be really, really, really careful to not charge anything more than you would have normally charged in a normal environment. And as far as I know, and I think I know a lot from a lot of different people, I don't know anybody that's gouging the state in any way, shape, or form. And for instance, on this PPE, even though I'm not making a dime on it, the guys that are doing it, Taylor's doing it, there's a 10% service fee, and that's it. And he's got, hundreds of employees in China that are packing stuff and wrapping stuff. So we're not making money, because I think on this kind of stuff, you need to be on the right side of history. And there's going to be all kinds of things that come out afterwards and people inspecting everything. And, I think from everything I've seen in our state, I think there's been a lot of good behavior. And I got a lot of phone calls from people that are excited about trying to, do testing or throw PPE, or I got some masks, and you'll talk to them and you're like, that's 3 times the price that you should be paying and that we're paying. So why are you marking that up? You're going to make $14 million on that one order personally to get masks to people. It's just not right. And it's going to come back to haunt you. So I've been proud of how everyone's behaved. And I can't say that I know everything, but from what I've seen compared to everything else I'm seeing, there's been a lot of good behavior, which I appreciate.
And I just want to clarify to everyone as well what was in the shipment, and it's much needed gowns, masks, both the surgical N95 and the K.
Of the 8 million pieces, yes. Today was just goggles and KN95, really high quality KN95 masks that New York was paying $7 for. We brought them in for, I think, $1.35 or $1.38 or something like that. The goggles, same thing, really high quality goggles, and it filled up a 757, just those 2 things. And it was just a portion of the order. So literally there's like 8 747s full of equipment that's coming over these next couple of weeks. And that will include Tyvek suits that you put the patients in so they don't transmit anything, the isolation gowns, the surgical gowns, and the surgical gowns, same thing. Like, I'm learning all kinds of stuff I don't want to know. You don't want 2 millimeters, you want 3 millimeters. The 2 millimeters rip and they leak. Being able to bring in, the people are actually doing latex gloves because they can't get enough of the non-latex gloves. And then there's 3-ply surgical masks, 4-ply surgical masks, KN95 masks, N95 masks, and isolation gowns, surgical gowns, Tyvek suits. I know I'm missing something, but you get the gist of it. We're bringing it all in those 8 million pieces.
Well, again, thank you so much, Josh, for everything you've done here. Really unbelievable. This does not happen without you. And I know that there's so many people within the Silicon Slopes community who have worked tirelessly on this as well. But thank you so much. And can I just say, my wife, as a romantic gesture, I mentioned this, I shaved my mustache for my wife, and now I look at you with the full beard, and I'm so jealous. I'm so sad.
Just
my
remember
wife's
the
happy,
highlights.
and now I'm sad.
It's not gray, it's highlights. It might be the lighting that makes it look, it's highlights.
That's great, my friend. And now I want to go to the chair of the Silicon Slopes Economic Committee, Jeremy Andrus, to get an update on everything happening with the PPP loans and everything that committee is doing. Jeremy.
Clint, I'm not going to start by accusing Josh of not having a little energy or passion for this thing. I almost feel like, let's cut this off right now. Josh, thanks. And I want to echo a comment he made, which is there's an amazing sort of public-private collaboration going on right now. It's been fun to watch, and it's also been fun to watch it evolve. And I think it's it's a real testament to the business leaders and the government, the political leaders in the state. So I think there's some good news to report, and there's not perfect transparency around the funding, but here's what I can say. As of about 24 hours ago, it appeared that about $250 billion had been committed, and Utah had about $2.6 billion of that. So a week ago, or last Thursday, what we'd heard was that Utah was about 0.72% of total PPP funds that had been committed. That's below our fair share. The goal has always been to get the state at least to our fair share, which would be about 1%. And it appears, if the information is timely and accurate, that we're tracking slightly north of 1%. So we've made up a lot of ground since sort of middle of last week. That's important. We need these, we're all competing for the same funds. We need these funds to come to the state of Utah and feeling good about the progress that the state is making. As of this morning, about $300 billion, as about 9 o'clock this morning, $300 billion were gone, had been committed. And it sounds like the rest will be committed by end of day today. And so, there is a lag, and this is one of the pieces that's slightly troubling, is that, with these small businesses needing funds now, there is a lag in terms of what has been dispersed and what's been committed. And the bank can wait up to 10 days to actually fund these loans. We hope that in the state they are funding them as fast as possible. But good progress. One of the things that we learned from the survey data, and I'll share some snippets of that data in a few minutes, is that 59% of small businesses in Utah have applied for a PPP loan. That's a good start. The goal is 100%. It's likely that there's going to be another $250 billion. There's been a lot of conversation around that. I think that energy will start to rise as soon as it's confirmed that this $350 billion has been committed. But we want to encourage small businesses to continue to apply for these loans. If you apply and you are part of the backlog and the 250 incremental $1 billion becomes available, then you will be at the front of the queue. So we're really trying to do things at a committee level to provide transparency as to which lending institutions are actually making progress. They're processing these loans. They're ready to be funded so that entrepreneurs know where to go. I would also say that if you've applied somewhere for a PPP loan and you're not getting a response, you can apply elsewhere. And our recommendation as we provide some of this information is that you consider applying somewhere else if you're not getting feedback from your lending institution. So net, feel like good progress there. Second point of update that I think is relevant. Some of these things are like, we're living COVID time. These things are moving fast, and that's important. About a week ago, we decided to launch the Silicon Slopes SMB series. And the thought is that we would pick some very, very narrow topics that are important to small businesses. We would assemble a panel of experts and we would go deep in these topics. And, we did that last Thursday evening. We had a great panel of experts. We had 600 small businesses watching live. We've had about 3,500 small businesses watch this 90-minute YouTube broadcast since last Thursday. And there was a ton of engagement. I mean, like there were hundreds of questions and comments that came up live. We're doing our best to get to all of them. We're going to continue to do this every week. And we're creating this timely content that we think will be important. So this Thursday, we're going to take another element of the PPP program that we think is very important to small businesses. It's around loan forgiveness. If you're borrowing this money, the key attribute is that if you invest or spend it the right way, it will be forgiven by the federal government. So we're going to go very deep on this topic so that those who have applied or received funding know exactly what they need to do, how they spend, how they track their expenses. And we're just going to get very technical and very granular on this topic. And I think that's going to be a good conversation. Next Thursday, we are likely going to talk about a topic that may be uncomfortable, but it's bankruptcy. Bankruptcy it's not the last thing that you do when you run out of cash. It's something that you might prepare to do to make sure that you can protect your business and continue to operate and get back on your feet. But this is a topic that we're hearing is going to be important to small businesses. Lastly, I want to just share a few updates on the survey, the survey that we've been doing. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Let's see here. There we go. Can you see that, guys?
Yeah, we can see it.
Terrific. So we've had tremendous response on our survey. Last week we had 2,200 small businesses share information with us, and we have 800 of those who we're going to track every week so that we can start to understand how are the pain points moving, are these businesses getting funded, what are they dealing with, and then how can we help them. There were some interesting learnings that I put just a summary screen up here that I think are valuable. Number one, Utah businesses, not surprisingly, are struggling. On average, small businesses expect a 53% reduction in revenue. That's a massive number. That's a scary number, especially if you consider the amount of fixed spend, utilities, rent, other overhead, labor, and they actually don't believe that they will be operating back at sort of full revenue levels until early next year. 16% have ceased operations. 75% of those who haven't ceased operations believe that they have no more than 90 days of cash left to operate their businesses. We're seeing that they're adapting. And this is the best part, I think, of small businesses. They became entrepreneurs because they're scrappy, they're hungry, they're resourceful, and we're seeing them do some just run the gamut of reducing price, repositioning products, pushing out supplier payments. I had a chance to talk to the owner of Granite Bakery yesterday, and first of all, he hadn't applied for a PPP loan. He thought it was too complicated, and he's applying today. But he said, my wedding cake business just completely dried up. I started selling flour and yeast, and he's moving thousands of units a day of flour and yeast. I mean, like, talk about resourcefulness. One of the things that we want to do in our SMB series is talk about how do you make these strategic pivots? How do you figure out when, as consumer behavior has changed and there's a need to find other opportunities, how do you do it? How do you identify them? How can we be the inspiration for these small businesses to extend that cash runway until we get back to a new normal? Lastly, a bit of a disconnect between small businesses and Utah workers. And that was actually really interesting. Utah talent, they are feeling some pain, reduction in pay, hours reduced, benefits reduced, some furloughs, some layoffs. But interestingly, they are not panicking. They tend to believe that if it doesn't work out where they are, that they can go elsewhere and find new employment. One of the things that we're contemplating as the Economic Impact Committee is how can we help upskill their skills, and we'll talk about that in a future town hall. But the statistic that I want to end with that I thought was really compelling is that 80% are satisfied with how their employers are dealing with this issue. And I actually think that's remarkable, and it's a real testament to the leadership of businesses in the state. They feel like they're not only being heard, but that the leaders of their businesses are anticipating their needs, they're communicating well, and they are controlling what they can control and creating an environment where they can continue to be their best selves, notwithstanding everything going on. So I guess I would end with that and say, again, it speaks to, quality of business leadership in the state, that they are doing what they can to make this, as positive of experience for their businesses, for their teams. And I think that's a super positive statement.
So, quick question for you, Jeremy. First of all, this survey is badass. This is unbelievable that we've put this together this quick. This is unbelievable. How can people see it? Are we going to publish this on slopeserves.com?
We will publish it over the next 24 hours on slopeserves.com. And I think where it starts to get interesting is as we start to track the changes in sentiment, that you can actually see week by week what is going on. Big shout out to the Cicero Group, who has supported this. I mean, the quality of the survey work, it's second to none. And I think this is going to be, the resource for understanding Utah small businesses over time.
Jeremy, I want you to stay on because we're going to bring on Howard, who's the president of the Utah Bankers Association. And you may have some questions as the head of the economic committee here. So Howard, want to bring you in to talk about how this is affecting banks, how banks are working with businesses on the PPP loans, and ways that our community can help.
Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here. It's been probably the most exciting Zoom call I've been on in the last couple of weeks. So I appreciate it. Banks are we've never seen anything like this before. We're working literally 24-hour shifts, dividing up our employees. And to the point, Jeremy, trying to process, just get as many small businesses into this program as possible. And that has slowed us down on the fulfillment end, on the funding closing end, but we felt it was more important to get people into the program, get them their authorization number. And then obviously if we have businesses that are right on the edge and they need that money, we can move and close those, but we really wanted to focus on getting as many people in there. We've been tracking the same numbers that you have in terms of percentages and wanting to get our disproportionate share of this revenue to our state. And we were pleased. We analyzed the same numbers. I think we're about 1.25%, so above the 1% target in terms of numbers of loans, and about 1.06% in terms of total dollar volume. But we're working hard today. As you said, we're getting right to the end of the program. I'm the chairman of the 50 State Bankers Association Alliance. We sent off a letter to Congress today, 3 o'clock, and just said, you guys have got to put this aside and get this funded, because there's a real problem in terms of what happens if the 350 billion elapses before they approve the 250 billion. And you talk about staying in the queue, getting in the queue. Well, they've announced that there's not going to be a queue. And so we need them to provide us some guidance as to what's going to happen to these small businesses that are in process. So there's lots of guidance that we haven't received. We've been flying blind for the most part for the last 3 weeks. It's been very frustrating, but we just move forward. You know, when in doubt, we just move forward, get the authorization numbers and close these loans, and hope that when we get to the back end, I appreciate you focusing on the forgiveness end. 8 weeks from now, we got to look at where the money was spent, see if it's forgiven. It'll be interesting to see if we have guidance on that by then. But we're just working through it. This is unprecedented, but it's critically important for the state, and we know that. And I'm just really proud of the work that all the banks are doing in terms of just scheduling people around the clock. I've never witnessed that. It's the new banker's hours is basically 7-Eleven. It's 24/7, and it's exciting to see.
Howard, I have a question for you. Is there any reason why some banks do process PPP loans and others don't?
Yeah, I mean, there's some banks that they're only set up to do like consumer lending. They do unsecured consumer home improvement loans or something. So this really wouldn't apply to that. But there's a lot of banks that haven't done small business loans before that got into it just for this purpose. And just about every bank in the state is authorized to do this work. Some are more experienced at it, but everybody's kicking it, jumping in and trying to do their share.
I want to bring in a company. I want to first acknowledge two incredible FinTech companies here in the state of Utah who are processing so many of these loans. One is Lendio and one is Divvy. Divvy has done amazing work, and we're bringing in their co-founder, Alex Bean, to give us an update on their efforts. Alex, can you talk about, the way Divvy is helping here?
Yeah. Hey, it's good to be here. As you just said, it's crazy. A lot of appetite for the loans. Everyone's got a little bit of a different path, different bank partners. For Divvy, we've got one partner. Lendio's got a lot of different ones. So in some instances, that's better for our process in some ways, and then Lendio's doing a phenomenal job to diversify. But yeah, it's just been, 18, 20-hour days, like not kidding. It's been very long, and doing everything we can to turn our revenue teams into PPP small business teams and make sure that our customers and other people that are coming to us, that we can help them. And that's really what it's all about, is trying to get small businesses back on their feet. So that's what we're doing.
What advice do you have for companies right now, Alex, who are trying to get through this process? How should they start? Is it too late? What are you hearing?
No, it's definitely not too late. I know there's a lot of stuff going around on the internet. Wall Street Journal's reporting it's done by tonight. But one would have to assume, I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts here on the town hall, that the Congress will continue to approve funds. Find a group that you can trust. That might be Divvy, that might be someone else, but get them on the phone, walk through the process. It's not too late. Make sure you go get what's yours as an SMB. If the government's telling you to stay at home and they're going to give you a loan that's not free money, but that is opportunity for you to not let people go, take advantage of it. Go figure it out. Call a banker, call us, call Lendio, call somebody you trust, and go get it.
Can I just insert something here? I want to thank Divvy. I had a great conversation with the CEO of Divvy a couple weeks ago, really, and we were just brainstorming what could be done. And it was amazing to watch. We brainstormed how they could help their customers and what that model would look like, and they just dove in and started building it. It was really amazing. And then they helped obviously more than just their own customers. They partnered with a bank, I think in New Jersey, and it made a lot of introductions. Didn't work out with a bank here in Utah, but didn't matter, right? You're helping Utah companies.
We're having those combos as well, locally and farther. So thanks, Howard.
Yeah, but they built it so fast. It was really impressive.
Well done, Alex. And just to clarify real quick for you, Alex, is there like a Bug's Life 2 coming out? Is that what this background is?
I'll be honest. I actually had the one I've been running with is Seattle, which is my hometown. And I realized this Silicon Slopes podcast. That's why I kind of felt a little insecure. I'll go back to my Seattle one. We'll be good.
The Bugs Life one, it really was that like, it looked like you were promoting Bugs Life too. It was awesome.
It's one of the default ones in Zoom. It's like one of the two, but I'll stick with this one, which is what I normally have. So.
But I really do want to acknowledge Divvy for everything that they've done. Everyone check them out. Any small business or entrepreneur, please check out Divvy and everything that they're doing as this thing continues. And also Lendio. We've had some really incredible FinTech companies here in the state of Utah who have really stepped up on this PPP stuff.
Hey,
and yeah.
So one thing that's been amazing to me is to see so Lendio and Divvy are both going at it, and so are all the bankers. But like, there's these text threads from Lendio to Zions to Mountain America that we're all going there just to help out the SMBs, and I've loved it. There hasn't been turf wars. There hasn't been people saying, no, I want that money. Like, everyone is actually in it to just help the SMB. I think it's awesome. So I'm super proud of Silicon Slopes bringing everyone together and doing that.
One
Thanks,
other
Alex.
company to mention is Square. Square just got their bank approved here in Utah, and they immediately jumped in as well. And it's really fun to see that.
Another person who's done just incredible work for the restaurant industry is Andrew Smith, the CEO of 4 Foods Group. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
Oh, everything is perfect. We're alive and well.
I love it. Tell us, we had you on early on in all of this, and this is the second time you've been on one of these town halls. And at first it was just like, hey, food is safe, get takeout. There was a lot of crazy things going on in the first few days and the first week or two of this thing. Since that time, you've launched a fund to support restaurants. Can you talk about what you're doing?
Yeah, we obviously know this is a tough time for a lot of employees out there, and we have, a little over 1,400 employees. We wanted to keep them working. I mean, a lot of these people, they require having a check every 2 weeks to stay alive. So my partner, Greg Warnock, and I put together an employee relief fund of $1 million to keep our employees working. To date, we've burned through about half of that, to be honest, to keep employees working, keep check coming every 2 weeks. So we're happy to have done that. We did it with our partners in Mobetta, Swig, and R&R, and then Greg and I did it as well. But it's to really send a signal that we're going to make it through this together, and we need to make it through it together. And this is going to come to an end, and it's really galvanized our team. So I would suggest everybody, as much as they can, keep your doors open, keep thriving, keep pushing, and stay alive, because I think that there's going to be better days on the back end of this.
How devastating has this been on the restaurant industry in Utah so far?
So, well, Josh can talk about this too, because we've both been pummeled by it, but it was the worst it was, or it has been over the last 5 weeks, 4 weeks ago. And then it was a little better the 3rd week or 3 weeks ago. The last 2 weeks, I think that the community, which I would just have to say thank you to everybody for supporting their local restaurants. Things have actually started to look a little better. As you can see, when you're driving around the community, there's a lot of makeshift drive-throughs and virtual pickups and curbside, and third party is probably the hottest it's been for a long time in Utah. And so when the governor came out and said, make sure that you eat out at your restaurants, Governor Herbert really helped out, because we saw a spike right after that as well. And I think people are getting more comfortable that it's safe, right? Because they keep saying it's safe to eat the food, it's not transmitted through the food. Just about a week ago, the CDC came out and said it's going to be a good idea to wear masks. And so we put people to work and sewed masks for everybody. So we wouldn't take the N95 masks that many of you are working on getting for our frontline responders. So we sewed masks, we put them on, and it's interesting because every single location that we have, which we have 45 here in Utah, they say customers have come through even more. So we've seen a big resurgence of that, and said, we feel more comfortable coming now because you're wearing masks and wearing gloves, and they actually see that. So thanks to the community and thanks to all the business leaders pushing out, because it's absolutely supported the industry. And we're not as bad off as we were, but it doesn't mean that being -20, -30, -40% in sales is easy. It's still it's very difficult still.
We also have Madalena here from the COVID-19 Mutual Aid. She's the volunteer coordinator. Madalena, can you talk to us about how our community can help support you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for having me here and for all of the work that you're doing. This is really incredible to hear about. Like Clint mentioned, I am the volunteer coordinator for the COVID-19 Mutual Aid Network in Salt Lake, which has expanded to now we've been serving people in Utah County as well as Davis County and out to Tooele County and out the other way to Summit County. So basically what the Mutual Aid Network is, it's a very grassroots organization built kind of on the idea that everyone has something to offer in times of crisis and everyone needs help sometimes. So trying to kind of match up the people who have something to offer with the people who need help. I know when this first all started happening, all I saw in kind of like my Facebook feed and Twitter feed and Instagram feed was people kind of being like, if you need help with groceries, I can help you with this. If anyone needs help, you know, with childcare, I can help with this. So the Mutual Aid Network kind of seeks to bridge those gaps. And it's nice because since we're not a C3, we're not an official nonprofit or anything like that, we can be pretty nimble and we can get to people who might be falling through the cracks of the existing support systems. So what we really want to do, and I'm going to share my screen with you all for a second. So this is it working? Oh no. I always forget to hit share. There we go.
There you go. You're good.
I'm good. Okay, so this is the website. What we're looking for are volunteers and we're looking for donations. This is our Instagram page. In the last month, we've been able to redistribute $50,000 worth of groceries, medical supplies, and emergency cash. We've picked up people's prescriptions, delivered groceries. We've worked with folks from all over the Valley and all over the multiple counties that I talked about. We also did a supply drive with the Bluff Mutual Aid Network to benefit the Navajo Nation. So we were able to bring a giant load of supplies down there to benefit the work they're doing there. So we are just looking to get the word out about this. It's basically, I mean, at this point, it's really taken off. At first, it was kind of like 6 of us working really hard to try and figure out how to make it work. And now, like I said, we have probably distributed about $60,000 at this point to almost 1,300 different households. So we would love for anyone who's like, I need to do something right now and I need to go get someone in my neighborhood groceries. Like we have those people who are in need and we know how to connect you with them and we can provide the things that you need to be safe doing it. And for anyone who's like, you know, those stimulus checks are coming in. And if you're looking for a place to put your stimulus check, this is an entirely volunteer run organization. All of the funding goes back into the community. And we're finding that a lot of people are just like 50 or $100 away from where they need to be stable wise, or they're like one grocery delivery away from being able to say like, okay, I can figure this out now, but not getting that one grocery delivery or that help with that one bill could be the thing that sets everything off in the opposite direction. So that's what we're kind of trying to do, is figure out how we can work with existing nonprofits. That's what we've been doing. And, you know, grassroots, just to get to people where they need it and to really invigorate our community in that way by truly just like showing up for each other.
Well, thank you so much for everything you're doing. That's incredible. Everyone check that out. I also want to give 2 important updates as we end today. One, the Utah Food Bank is doubling any donation today. Today's the very last day for this, up to 100K. You can find that on the Silicon Slopes Twitter account, Utah Food Bank Twitter account. And also Cotopaxi released a new version of the One Utah t-shirt. You can find all that stuff at slopeserves.com. Finally, I'm going to give the man of the hour, my good friend Josh James, who brought in $8 million different PPE in over the next few weeks and a huge plane coming in. I'm going to give him the final word, but I want to thank a few people. I want to thank Jeremy Andrus for all the work that he's doing. I want to thank Mark Newman. I want to thank Ryan Smith, Dave Elkington, Corrine Clark, Andrew Smith, and Aaron Sconard. Josh, close us out.
All right. Well, I think just seeing what everyone was just saying has been pretty awesome. You know, it's a lot of different people and a lot of different industries all coming together and helping everybody. And I think Utah is really shining through. You know, it's been cool that we're getting national press, like, you know, Mad Money, I was able to call out Test Utah when I was on Mad Money, which was cool. And I think not only are we helping to save our state, but we're serving as an example of what all the other states should look like. So anyway, just really appreciate everyone's help, and it was really fun to be able to do this for the state. And I know there's a lot more coming after this too. So we'll just, hopefully, it's like the governor said today, aggressively prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And hopefully all these PPP loans come through and we're able to get our lion's share of that. So I love hearing that, Jeremy, that we're tracking better. As Tex and Andrew, love seeing the kind of he inspires me with his kind of confidence and calm leadership. And Madalena, loved hearing what you were talking about, and Divvy being able to turn on a dime and go from having to potentially lay people off to you guys are so stinking busy that it's just awesome. It's inspiring. You guys all inspire me. So it's a fun day. It was an exciting day. We got to spike the football on behalf of all of us. So hopefully that's how you guys felt it was. And just let's all keep digging.
Thanks, Josh. Our next one of these is Monday at 4 p.m. We're going to do these weekly now. We were doing 3 a week. We went to 2 a week. Now we're only going to do 1 a week. So the next one is Monday at 4 p.m. Everyone make sure they tune into Jeremy's town hall tomorrow on the economic front. That's at 4 p.m. It's streamed on all of Silicon Slopes' social media channels. Thank you so much. Have a good day.